The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by VYBE 305 and SeatGiant. Now enjoy the show.
Down the middle to the end zone. Whoa. Caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows.
It's Pitts. The Cal Roby Coleman
throws. End zone caught. Touchdown. Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. LaMarcus Joyner returns to the lineup with an interception in London. 35-30. Robert Woods, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA. No, it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Met immediately and sacked. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack. He's decked by Ebu Kong. Picked off. Marcus Peters strutting his stump. Mark Barron the last 4 weeks has been a Pro Bowler. He picked off Dak Prescott into Seattle territory, into the clear. 30, 20, Farrell Cooper 10. Farrell Cooper at the goal line.
Cousins sacked. Ndamukong Suh. Of all the guys, it's the rookie John Franklin Myers who knocks it out of Cousins' right hand.
Todd Gurley, 20, 10, Gurley for MVP. Touchdown LA.
Hello guys, and welcome to a long-awaited Downtown Rams podcast. I'm your host, Jake Ellenbogen. I'm here to cover the Rams-Packers game, the Dante Fowler trade, and of course the Rams-Saints game coming at you this Sunday. Before we get into it, I did take a trip to Los Angeles, and boy oh boy was I busy during that trip. It involved tons of activities, tons of things that I did while I was out there. I was out there with my best friend and my father. I met some awesome Rams fans. I had a great time. I saw the Rams. I met some Rams. So I'm just going to, touch on that really quickly, and then we'll dive right into everything. Overall, it was a fun trip. I thought it was epic, to be quite honest. I went to Warner Brothers Studio, Sony Pictures Studio. Checked out Mulholland Drive, the Rams 2020 Stadium, the Fabulous Forum, the Staples Center. Checked out downtown LA. Real Mexican food. I mean, it was, there's a lot. I don't even think I touched any, well, I touched some of it, but I don't think I can touch all of it. So, with that being said, it was a great time. I ended up going to an executive IT, more so a networking meeting, courtesy of my great family friend Chris, who was able to hook us up with that event. We ended up meeting Robert Woods, so that was awesome. Met Robert Woods, and then RWO, shout out to them, Rams World Order. Michael Martinez, great dude. He actually got us some passes at the end of the game to get out and meet the players afterwards. I was able to dap up with Corey Littleton and ask him to come on the show, which he agreed, so it'll be in due time. I was able to get a picture with Ethan Westbrooks. Shout out to him, great dude. And, I was able to see guys like Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Whitworth within walking distance from me. So, pretty crazy stuff. It was a surreal vacation. Stayed in Venice Beach and, getting to see them shooting. If you guys are fans of Lucifer, Season 3 of Netflix, that was being shot at Venice Beach. The Muscle Beach portion where we have the, all the gym set up outdoors. It was being filmed there, so if you happen to see somebody wearing a red tank top, maybe some basketball shorts, and so forth, that looks like me, well, then I guess I made the cut, because we walked right through the filming, and they didn't say cut, so I guess we'll see. But that's it for my trip. Anybody that wants to have any further details or anything like that, I could talk all day, but I'm not going to on here. So definitely feel free to reach out to me via email, via Facebook, via Twitter, via Instagram, whatever works for you, and the Discord channel. And I'll be more than happy to break it all down for you. With that being said, I have to mention iTunes. If you like what you hear, be sure to leave a review and hopefully a 5-star review and a little comment letting us know, your thoughts. I'm going to be doing a giveaway pretty soon, so let's start getting those reviews in there, and I'll be giving away either a hat or maybe a parking pass. You guys can tweet out at Downtown Rams and let me know what you guys would want. So I'll be doing that soon. And without further ado, we'll dive right in here with the Rams-Packers. If you guys feel like I'm a little off, it's one of the main reasons why I haven't podcasted in a while. I got really busy on the trip, so I do apologize for that because I had a lot of people yelling at me. But also, I'm having some little bit of an asthma flare-up, I guess. So if you hear that I'm, pausing more often than not, well, I'm just basically fighting through my asthma. So just wanted to make sure there's a podcast out for you guys. And again, I hope you guys do enjoy. And, I do apologize for the, wheezing or whatever. So the Rams-Packers game. Well, I will say this right now. Rams-Packers. Fun game being there. Unfortunately for me, and my friend, and my father, we sat in the Packers section. Now, there's not an actual Packers section. But if there was, we sat in it. I heard "Go Pack Go" more times than I can count. With that being said, "Go Pack Go," all of that ends up being a 29-27 win for the LA Rams. But this is one of the main reasons why we decided to go to this game. The Rams play teams, they play 16 teams. Obviously not including the division, teams that they play multiple times. They play 16 teams. What was more exciting than going to see Aaron Rodgers versus the Rams? I couldn't think of really much. A guy that I think of is widely regarded as one of the best quarterbacks. I think of as the best quarterback to ever play the game. I was like, yeah, sign me up. So, trying to make this an every year thing, going to Rams games and whatnot, we decided to go to the Packers game. This game was nothing short of spectacular. Now, did the Rams play their best game? Absolutely not. Did the Rams, get tons of great production out of guys like Josh Reynolds, Corey Littleton, Mark Barron? Yes. And at the same time, not having guys like Cooper Kupp, and I would even make the argument Trayvon Young, did impact this team. However, Cooper Kupp gone, Josh Reynolds fills in 2 touchdowns. You have the Rams, obviously, with the best running back in the National Football League, and Todd Gurley. You had him going off. But one of the craziest things about this game was that all of a sudden the offensive line looked down to earth. Now, that's not to say they are down to earth. I think what you see is what you get. I think they are, by all measure, if not the best offensive line in football, they're top 3. They struggled at times. You had big Mike Daniels, you had big Kenny Clark in those trenches, and man, let me tell you, Kenny Clark does not get enough credit. He's the best nose tackle in professional football. And he proved it. Just watch the film. He proved it. He was all over that one of the plays, 4th down or 3rd down, the Rams went for it. Near the goal line, he stuffed him right up the middle. That was Kenny Clark. The big sack where Jared Goff tripped over his own feet, Kenny Clark forced that. Clark was nasty. I mean, he's been doing it since last year. That's why he's on my individual player from Dynasty Fantasy League. So, Kenny Clark is very talented. And the Rams had a lot, going up against him and Daniels, that's a tough test. This offensive line still performed well, but Kenny Clark did get his fair share of wins. With that being said, there was another player that really stood out for me for the Green Bay Packers, and that was a guy that I loved in the draft. Out of Louisville. Many wrote off, so he was too injury prone. And for good measure, he's been injured, 2-3 games he missed? Well, Jair Alexander came out and he played what I would say one of the best games at cornerback I've ever seen. He shut down Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks still had, his moments. I think he had a couple catches for 50 yards. Jair Alexander was extremely impressive. And to be at that game and see the coverage, he's going to be one of the best for a long time. But that's not really what I don't want to focus solely on the Packers, albeit I have a ton of respect for them. It's just kind of goes to show you that, when you have a great defensive coordinator like Mike Patton, you eventually start to catch on. The Rams, without Cooper Kupp, were not able to scheme guys and get the guys wide open like you had seen in the past. The Rams are missing Cooper Kupp. And quite honestly, I think it'd be the same thing if it was Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. They'd be missing Brandon Cooks. I think if it was Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp, they'd be missing Robert Woods. Because at the end of the day, they can win. But these three guys together, that's what makes them even more special. And while they're interchangeable and while Josh Reynolds had 2 touchdowns, Josh Reynolds did not play as well as a Cooper Kupp would have in this game. I know he had 2 touchdowns. But Josh Reynolds had 2 great plays. Overall, he didn't really dominate in that game. He came up big when he was needed to, but he couldn't be relied on as heavy as Cooper Kupp, one of Jared Goff's favorite targets. And that's pretty obvious. The leading receiver last year for the Rams. So, before people start questioning the Rams, 29-27, they eke one out. First off, Green Bay's defense is coming together. They gave up 29 points in a game where really, they gave up 27 due to the safety. But they gave up 27 points in a game where really 27 was just a great output for that defense. And I would make the argument for the Rams. The Rams defense gives up 27. Well, I'll tell you right now, aside from a handful of really bad plays by Marcus Peters, some slip-ups by Troy Hill, that front 7 did their job. I mean, you want to talk about Aaron Donald, who he takes advantage of, I think it was Corey Linsley, the center, goes to block Ndamukong Suh. Because eventually, when you have all these guys, you're throwing all these guys in the trenches, it becomes very chaotic. And you have to make quick decisions, and if you make the wrong decision, you're done. Well, Corey Linsley goes to block Ndamukong Suh. Aaron Donald basically sneaks right by, sack. Corey Littleton with the huge sack on 3rd down. At the beginning of the game, I caught on camera. I was lucky enough to catch that on camera. That was one of the biggest things of that game, because that was the tone setter. The Packers were up 10-0 at one point. They would have been up 17-0 likely, or 13-0 had he not gotten that sack and knocked him out of field goal range. There were some serious plays made by this front 7 that can't go, unspoken of. You talk about Mark Barron. Mark Barron has played awful. But this game, it looked like he was finally back to 100% or near it. And you saw the old Mark Barron. Mark Barron was all over. Corey Littleton was all over. I mean, the Rams got some really good production out of their front seven. That can't be stressed enough. Because their secondary, at the end of the day, besides John Johnson, their secondary pretty much let them down. I mean, Marcus Peters is now playing 15 yards off his man in super... I mean, it's ridiculous how much cushion he's given to his man. Devontae Adams was eating him alive. Equanimeous St. Brown, the rookie, was eating him alive. It's that simple. I mean, when you leave 15 yards of cushion, they'll just hit you over the middle with some quick slants that you can't even get downhill enough to cover. Or they'll hit you over the top because you try to guess and you guess wrong. It's part of the reason why I actually expected the Rams to try and make a deal at the deadline for a cornerback. Now, before I get into that, because the Rams did make a move at the deadline, I do have to mention the Rams were really hoping for Kevin Peterson to emerge this year, and his injury has changed things. He was the next guy in line after, NRC, Talib, Peters. He was the next guy in line. As you've seen, Sam Shields is a situational player. I think you can play him half a game, but he doesn't withstand a whole game anymore. He just doesn't have the stamina. That was Kevin Peterson's role. He had surpassed Troy Hill. Well, now Kevin Peterson's out. You have Darius Williams. I wonder how Darius Williams would do. I wonder if the Rams eventually look to, go for the hot hand and see what they have in Williams. Right now, Marcus Peters is playing some really bad football. And it didn't cost them the game against the Packers, but it could have. It definitely could cost them the game this Sunday against the Saints. Yeah, I know. People are saying, well, the Rams got away. They just got lucky, fumble, all of that. Ty Montgomery, who's no longer on the Packers, he was traded to the Ravens for a next year's 7th-round pick. He fumbled away the game. Well, I'll tell you right now, the contact was made. Ramik Wilson hit him very hard. The ball did not come out instantly. And Ramik Wilson ripped the ball out after the contact. So, I mean, I guess you can say it's kind of lucky, but that was just a really good play by Ramik Wilson, who is rated the second best special teamer in the league per Pro Football Focus, only behind Corey Littleton, his teammate. Pretty big deal. That changed everything. Another thing I want to bring up. At the end of the game, Todd Gurley, why didn't you score a touchdown? Are you kidding me? Why didn't you get in the end zone? Fantasy teams, degenerate gambling. Oh, wait, that's right, because Todd Gurley doesn't care. Todd Gurley's trying to win a football game. So, Todd Gurley didn't dive into the end zone to win you $100 or win you your fantasy league, because at the end of the day, that's the we not me culture that's constantly being preached. Todd Gurley understood the situation. It was not about running up the score. No one cared about that. It was about recognizing you're up 29-27. Because you're up 29-27, if you score a touchdown, that's 6, so that would be 35-27, right? So, 35-27, what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you. The extra point. They kick the extra point. It's good. They're up 9. 9, you put Aaron Rodgers back on the field. Say he scores a quick touchdown. They get the onside kick. They now have a chance to win the football game. Unlikely, yes, but you go from having the game in hand to giving the opponent a chance to win the football game. Another scenario. Extra point gets blocked. So what happens? Oh, no big deal. The Packers take it back for 2. Well, what just happened? So, I'll tell you. So, you're looking at 35-27, right? Well, if he returned it for a 2-point conversion, 35-29, now all the Green Bay Packers have to do with Aaron Rodgers go down the field, score a touchdown, and win the game with a lot of time left, albeit. So, there's a lot of time left on the clock. To me, I totally understand it. I think it's a very smart move by Todd Gurley, by Sean McVay, being able to have guys coached up to score in those situations, and not necessarily score touchdowns, but like score as in winning a football game. That is the key. Everyone's on the same page. Todd Gurley, his football IQ, he recognizes, look, it's not likely, but you'd rather have a 0% chance of losing than give a team a 0.1% chance of winning. So, that's why that happened. I saw it live. I understood it. People were complaining. It's going to happen. Whatever. At the end of the day, if you bet on that game, I don't know what you were thinking betting on the Rams against the Packers. Because that was the highest spread in the history of Aaron Rodgers' career as a starting quarterback. And that spread, if you bet on the Rams to cover that, I can't understand that. So, I've touched on that. We've touched on the Rams-Packers. I don't think you can take this too seriously as the Rams are about to go off a cliff, because I know there's a lot of media analysts out there. Well, the Rams, they almost lost. It's coming. Yeah, but you also have to factor in that they didn't have Cooper Kupp, who is a major part of that offense. Without Cooper Kupp, this offense does not look as explosive. It's common. I just look at it. It's still a really good offense, but it's top 5. It's not top 2. So, Cooper Kupp is going to help big time. But, this game, biggest takeaways, I've talked about, this game so far. My biggest takeaways, 1, the Rams need Cooper Kupp back, which they'll be getting him back this Sunday, so that will be great. 2, you pressure Jared Goff. Goff gets a little uncomfortable. You might be able to shift Goff in your direction to win the game. Now, Jared Goff still held on, but he was in some trouble. And you saw this game became a little bleak at times when guys like Kenny Clark, Clay Matthews, they're getting in the backfield and they're hitting him. Jared Goff hasn't been hit like that all year. So that's something to monitor. Not saying Jared Goff's bad, but Jared Goff under pressure becomes a good quarterback and far away from the elite-looking quarterback we see when he has all the time in the world. Now, Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is the best offensive player in the National Football League. He just is. Todd Gurley is the MVP of that team. Todd Gurley is the MVP of the league. Todd Gurley, in a game where really, I would make the argument the offensive line didn't play their best game, he was still finding it. And it took a little bit, but he wore down the defense. He got his touchdown, had over 100 yards. This is the best running back in the NFL. This is the best offensive player in the NFL, and this is the best player in the NFL for my money right now. I mean, I wouldn't say he's better than Aaron Donald, but I would say he's the most valuable. Todd Gurley wins you football games, can carry you to wins in football games, and quite honestly, I was a little surprised that they didn't use him a ton out of the screen game to really blow this thing open. They had a chance. Bear in mind, the Rams had a 10-point lead, and they gave it right back to Green Bay to tie it up. So, had they had that 10-point lead, not gone conservative, used a bubble screen to Todd Gurley or something like that, I would imagine the game would have been different. Playing for the field goal also is something that kind of goes unmentioned. I love Sean McVay. Everyone knows that. He was my guy, handpicked from the beginning. But Sean McVay almost lost the Rams this game by the simple merit of playing not to lose. It's not the Todd Gurley thing. No. It was when you got the ball and you kicked the field goal before the fumble, they easily could have had a touchdown on that drive if they put anything more together. That drive, I get it. There was a holding call. It was clearly holding. So I'm not knocking the holding penalty. No. I thought the referees were also fantastic in this game. I just want to say that because that is not something I say very often. But I'll tell you right this. Sean McVay, he played not to lose at the end. And in that sense, you could say he got lucky with the fumble because you put the ball right back in Aaron Rodgers' hands to win the game. If Ty Montgomery kneels it. I'll piggyback off that and say, well, Ty Montgomery really couldn't kneel it because Greg Zuerlein, who was a hero in this game, kicking field goals, kicking out of the back of the end zone, not allowing Ty Montgomery to take over anything. He then kicked his worst kick in the game. And it's funny, when he kicked that, everyone said in the near us, wow, that was not a good kick. And I thought to myself, that's not really a good kick either. But I think I know why. Zuerlein was baiting Ty Montgomery. You want him to come out. You're taking the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. Sure thing. Come right out. That's what happened. And I do think Zuerlein deserves an assist for that. Moving on. I'll say this means moving forward, you're looking at the Packers taking on the Patriots next week. That becomes a must-win for the Packers. With the Rams, this was huge. Instead of having to worry about potentially completely losing home field advantage throughout the playoffs if they lost this game and then lost to the Saints, now, the Saints would have the tiebreaker if they won, but this makes things a lot easier. The Rams, of course, still want to beat the Saints. Let's be real here. But this was huge. This was another, you had to take it down to the wire. This was one of those, eke it out wins that just make teams better. And this is almost, I think this is just as beneficial as losing a close game. Because you lose the game, and yes, people are saying they need a loss on their record. I don't believe that. Now, that's not me saying I don't believe they'll get a loss, because I find myself, I can never pick a team to go undefeated, albeit right now, the Rams have exceeded my expectations. I had them going into the Saints game and losing, as well as the Denver game. So I had them losing 2 games after the Saints game. But I have a hard time picking them to go undefeated, but at the same time, I'll take it week by week, but I have them beating the Saints. But before we get into that, while I was at Sony Pictures Studio, and I'm frantically texting my sources, asking, trying to get some information on, the Rams and the trade deadline and whatnot, and getting some interesting information throughout the day. All of a sudden, I do get told that the Rams and Dante Fowler are likely going to be a thing. The Rams had they have 3 third-round picks expected in this upcoming draft due to the compensation picks they'll be getting from Trumaine Johnson and Sammy Watkins. They fall in that bracket as long as the NFL doesn't really screw them over, but they're projected 3. Well, I heard that, and it's funny because, I'm texting about this, and I'm getting that Fowler's the guy, although they liked Irvin, and they called about, as Josina Anderson mentioned, they called about some Buffalo guys as well. But it seemed to me like it was between Irvin and Fowler, and they felt they were going to get outbid for Fowler. Fowler ends up being a 3rd and a 5th round pick. A 3rd this year, this upcoming draft, 5th after this upcoming draft, so 2020. Well, it's funny because I'm hearing these, I'm getting these texts, and all of a sudden I see this report come out. 2 3rd round picks for the Rams. Or not for the Rams, but the Jaguars are looking for 2 3rd rounders for Fowler. And to me, this goes back, I was telling my friend this is when stuff gets out on purpose. Contrary to belief, the Rams and Odell Beckham Jr. was almost a thing. The Rams had a chance to offer a 1st rounder and a player along the likes of either a Cooper Kupp or a Rob Havenstein for OBJ. And then Adam Schefter comes out with a report. Giants are looking for 2 first-round picks for Odell Beckham Jr. And then all of a sudden, talks break off, Rams get Brandon Cooks, and we never hear from that. That can be the death of trades. It happens. Those things get out to scare teams into bowing down to them and abiding by their price. The Rams did not. The Rams felt a 3rd and a 5th was the right way to go. The Rams were not backing off of that. They have a lot of arguments as to why Dante Fowler wouldn't be worth 2 3rd-round picks, seeing as the off-the-field issue concerns. The fact his production is nowhere near a 3rd overall pick in 2015, or what it should be. And the fact that really he wasn't even starting for the Jaguars. He was kind of a guy that they were just trying to get rid of before they couldn't sign him in the offseason. They had no plans to keep him. Dave Caldwell had no plans to keep him. They're just trying to get whatever they can. And that's the job. I mean, let's be real here. The Jaguars aren't going to, for instance, you don't just trade in fantasy. If you're like, I could push the envelope and get a 3rd-round pick in next year's draft in this Dynasty League. And so you're going to offer a 5th at the start. No. You're going to start the 3rd. Guy says no. You're going to you're going to go to the 4th. If he says no, you'll decide if you even want to make the trade, or you'll go down to a 5th. And you'll be like, okay, well, I was thinking 5th anyway, but I started off high to just see. That's what the Jaguars did. The Rams were not buying it. The Rams stood tall, 3rd round, 5th round, deal done. Jaguars now officially don't have, because they traded Dante Fowler, you can't say that they are tanking. There's no label there. Just like the Packers trading Clinton Dix for a 4th rounder to the Washington Redskins. That's beyond puzzling to me, but there's no label there. You can't tell me the Packers are tanking. So, with this trade, the Rams got a lot better at a position of need. Dante Fowler's already the best edge defender on this team. If you move Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald back to their home. It's as simple as that, and you're looking at this guy and you're thinking, wow, 3rd-round pick in 2015, what's happened? Why is he being had for a 3rd and a 5th? Isn't this a steal? Well, in a way, I would say yes. It is a steal. But, however, he is an expiring contract. You are all in for this year, but when you traded Sammy Watkins, people said that also last year. So, or traded for Sammy Watkins, have you? So, I look at this trade, and I think instantly the Rams got better at a position of need. Now it's only going to bolster their depth. They could be getting Okoronkwo back, and now they can, if they decide they don't want to, they can place him on IR. It's not like they lost anybody. They gained. So, the Rams made a move at the deadline, got better. The teams around them, the Eagles got Golden Tate. 3rd rounder's way too rich, I would say. The Lions got Damon Harrison. Aside from that, Cowboys got Amari Cooper. Redskins got better in the secondary with Clinton Dix. but the Saints didn't get anybody besides Eli Apple. Good pickup, but... And this is where I think the Rams had to make a move for an edge guy. Because while you do like a Matt Longacre or, John Franklin Myers, obviously you love his potential, it's a bunch of guys with potential, or it's a bunch of guys with, this is a rotational group. I think Samson Ebukam is really the only starter out of the bunch. I think John Franklin Myers down the road is going to be really good. But right now, he's doing similar to what Gerald Everett did last year for the Rams, where he started off strong and now, his snap counts are starting to go down. Fowler's huge. Fowler can turn the ball over. Fowler can be that speed guy off the edge. He's got a nice spin move in his repertoire. Fowler is also 24 years old. He won't be 25 until next August, I believe. Fowler is a free agent, but Fowler can be had for a decent price, I'd have to imagine. So, yeah, this was a good move. This is a really good move. This is going to help the Rams immensely. How much will he contribute? That remains to be seen. But I imagine they trade for him to be the starter alongside Ebukam. And I imagine that it will take, a couple weeks for him to be acclimated in the starting rotation. And then, we'll see from there. But I give this trade grade, I'm going to give it an A. It's not an A+, because it's not like the Rams got him for a 5th rounder. But it's not an A- or lower, because this is a need. This is talent. If you sign him, this could be a long-term asset. You get another 1st rounder on the defense. Fowler's having his best year of his career. It may have taken a while, but Fowler is having his best season to date. And now he's going to have a chance to fully start for under a Wade Phillips run defense. It's going to be something special, I think. I think he's really going to acclimate well. And I think he's got a lot of nice role models in that locker room. Aaron Donald, quote-unquote, smiling ear to ear when he found out that Dante Fowler was coming to the Rams. It's just going to help the guys even more. It's going to help the secondary. It's going to help the interior rush. It should be a lot of fun to watch, and the Rams needed this. If they didn't make a move, I think if they didn't make a move, they probably would have been fine. They still have an 8-0 team. But you make the move that not really anyone else near your class, decides to do. That's how you really set yourself apart. So, with that being said, the Rams and Saints are going to play this Sunday. It's going to be I'm pretty sure it's the only game. But it's going to be on national television for the 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time slot. Rams Saints. My overall thoughts on this game: last year the Rams beat the Saints at the Coliseum. And, it was a good game, but let's be real here. The Saints were missing Ken Crawley. They were missing Marshawn Lattimore. It seemed like there were injuries out the wazoo for the Saints. Well, this time, they are missing Marcus Davenport, and that's going to be a loss, but they still have a lot of talent. When you look at their roster, it starts with the offense. Drew Brees, obviously one of the greatest of all time. Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram. And then you look at the receiver group, and this is what intrigues me. They lose, so they lost Ted Ginn for the year. Well, I actually had the pleasure of seeing Traquan Smith out of UCF at the Senior Bowl in person. Very fluid route runner. He's somebody to watch. He's very intriguing. He's fast. And I thought he really did a nice job at the Senior Bowl, raising that stock. The Saints were able to get him, and now he slides into that role right next to Michael Thomas. And then they have Austin Carr, they have Cameron Meredith, so they have 4 receivers, but 4 receivers that are very talented. Austin Carr is somebody that you definitely have to watch out for, a very impressive slot guy. And then Cam Meredith, I mean, he had that knee injury, but once he gets fully healthy and gets fully confident in his ability, he's going to be really good again. He's a really good receiver, very tall, very fast, and he's still young. He's on a 1-year prove-it deal, so he's somebody to watch out for. Of course, without the offensive line, what would the Saints be? Teron Armstead, Andrus Peat, Max Unger, Larry Warford, Ryan Ramczyk. That is one of the best offensive lines in all of football. This defense is going to have its work cut out for them. They have a really good offensive line, and they are not going to allow Drew Brees to get hit without their permission. The Saints, I've watched a lot of their games, and they do like to throw out their, I believe he's 28 years old, their quarterback Taysom Hill. He's basically just an athlete where he comes in and he can throw, but he can run. That's going to be something for the Rams to watch out for. I would imagine they deploy him somewhere between the 2 to 4 times a game this season. I mean, I think they'll probably throw him in 4 plays this year. Or this game, sorry. So, that'll be interesting, something to watch. But, all in all, this offense is very talented. They're missing a Jimmy Graham at tight end. I think that's really the only thing that they're really missing. Like, old school Jimmy Graham, not now. I mean, one of the best tight ends in the league, Jimmy Graham. They have Ben Watson, somebody that's been around the league for a long time. They have Josh Hill, and I think they're good, but I just feel like they're missing that one big play tight end that would really just bolster this offense. The Rams are going to have to key in on Tre'Quan Smith. I think Michael Thomas, it goes without saying, he's one of the best receivers in the league. Tre'Quan Smith is somebody that could be sneaky good in this game. Another guy, Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was great last year against the Rams. What the Saints really need to do if they want to win this football game is push Mark Ingram off to the side. He's talented, yes. But Alvin Kamara is one of the best backs in football. He has unbelievable balance you saw in the Rams game last year. He's such a great pass catcher. And he's so explosive, and he's got that home run ability. He can change the game in a dime. I don't really know why you're trotting out Mark Ingram as much as you are, but Alvin Kamara is somebody to really watch for as well. Moving on, we have the defense that the Rams are going to up against. As mentioned earlier, Marcus Davenport is out. So we have Cam Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, Tyler Davison, and Alex Okafor on that defensive line. Rotational guys include Trey Hendrickson, David Onyemata, and Taylor Stallworth. It's a very good defensive line. I don't know if it's as talent-rich as the Packers' defensive line, but it's really good. And maybe I'm too high in the Packers' defensive line, but I just think Kenny Clark and Mike Daniels, I mean, that duo is phenomenal. Cam Jordan is one of the best at his position, so he's going to be a problem anyway. But let's not forget, Alex Okafor was a really good pickup last year who suffered an unfortunate injury, I believe, right before the Rams game. But he was really key on the outside for them. And, he's playing this year. They really liked what they were getting out of Marcus Davenport. He looked really good. They traded 2 first-round picks for him, of course. But he is going to be out for at least a month, so we won't see him. Moving on, the linebackers. Well, you look at Manti Te'o, who plays. I would say he's a pretty solid linebacker. Demario Davis is one of the best. Maybe not the top 5, but we're talking top 10. No idea why the Jets let him go. Albeit they did replace him, but it's hard to let a guy like that go that's been there for so long with you. But AJ Klein is really their biggest when they play him, he's their biggest weak link, I would say. I think they have some really talented players. Craig Robertson, who they got from Cleveland, and they drafted Alex Anzalone out of Florida. Anzalone is very athletic. He can do it all. I would expect to see him in a lot. The Rams saw him in the preseason game, so we'll see there. The Rams did play the Saints in preseason. Let's not forget that. So they do know some of these players. And, of course, this team has not changed tremendously since they last played. So in the secondary, you look, Ken Crawley is healthy, so is Marshawn Lattimore, first time seeing the Rams. Then you have Justin Hardy, you have Eli Apple, you have P.J. Williams, and Josh Robinson. P.J. Williams was named Defensive Player of the Week. Why, I can't tell you. He was torched all game long. He gave up 8 catches on 9 targets, over 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But he had a pick 6, so at least we have that going for us, right? So, P.J. Williams, Defensive Player of the Week. But you got to look at Marshawn Lattimore, Ken Crawley, and, of course, Eli Apple. I like Apple a lot. I think he was really starting to find his stride. And, I mean, it's kind of hard because he got such a bad rep early on with the Giants and, like, his mom and the comments and everything and, the immaturity. But I still think he's a solid corner. He's getting better. He's very young. He should fit in well. However, I expect the Rams to have their way with this secondary, but they're going to really have the secondary. A lot of work is going to be cut out for the secondary. I think Marshawn Lattimore, it's obvious the talent's there. He had an amazing year last year, but this year he hasn't played up to par, I would say. I think Ken Crawley's solid, but I don't think he is great. I think Eli Apple is a long-term guy. I don't think he's great either. I do like him. I think this Rams team can score over 30 or 40 points against the secondary. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue of this is going to be blocking up front. Can you stop a Sheldon Rankins? Can you stop Cam Jordan? Can you stop Alex Okafor? Tyler Davison? Like, if you can stop that defensive line, they're not getting pressure on Goff. This could be a lot like the Vikings game. With that being said, the safeties, Marcus Williams, Von Bell, Kurt Coleman. Kurt Coleman's kind of a liability, but Marcus Williams is already a really good safety, and Von Bell's not bad himself. So they have talent on this team, it's no doubt. They are the second best team in the NFL right now, and, they're going to have their work cut out for them because the Rams are, 8-0 for a reason. And, I think it'll be interesting to see who they cover because is anybody going to be shadowing anybody? If you're Marshawn Lattimore, are you covering Cooks, Woods, Kupp? I would have to imagine, you won't be able to shadow these guys. They're going to be all over the field and such. So, in this one, X factor in this game is going to be Cooper Kupp. I think he's really going to have a good game for the Rams to win this football game. It's going to be a tough one, but I think Cooper Kupp and his ability to get open, his physicality off the line of scrimmage, I think he has. If he gets Demario Davis in single coverage again, it's going to be lights out. But I think Cooper Kupp is going to have to be that security blanket if this defensive line is able to hit home and hit Goff. Because Goff did not have that last week. Or he did in Robert Woods and didn't use it. But Cooper Kupp is an X factor in this game. I'm going to say Dante Fowler. When you add a guy like that to this roster, you are telling everybody, this is our year. We didn't just do this for next year. This guy won't even be on the team next year if we don't sign him. Dante Fowler is not going to play a ton of snaps. I think he plays half the game, if even. But when he comes in, third down, pin your ears back, hit the quarterback, that is what Fowler is going to be there to do. And I think Fowler could get a sack and maybe a couple hits on the quarterback. I think he's an X factor in this game because teams have yet to see him in this defense on film. You have him, you have Ibukam. If both those guys are able to really get to the quarterback, opens up things for the interior, and all of a sudden it's disaster for Drew Brees at home. Also, stat, I forget who said this. The Saints are unbeatable at home with Drew Brees, yet they're 20-15 their last 35 times playing at the Dome. So that's not unbeatable. They did beat the Rams in 2016. Jared Goff played very well to start, and the offensive line just completely broke down. Goff, after throwing 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, it was kind of all downhill after that. And you could tell Sean Payton made it serious, made it personal, blew up Greg Williams' defense, and, he did not stop. So that was the last time. Completely different team now. So you have to imagine it's going to change. So my first 2 X Factors, I had Cooper Kupp, and I had Dante Fowler. My next X Factor, I gotta tell you right now, in case you don't know, this guy happens to be a Pro Bowl level player that is playing, and we're still not getting him national media attention. And his name is Corey Littleton. He needs to be talked about. He's one of the best linebackers right now in the league. He does it all. He's better in coverage than half of the corners on this roster. I think he absolutely needs to continue his way he's playing, and I think he will. I would look out for him to have an interception, maybe a sack in this game. He is very, very impressive. He's all over the field. He makes it really difficult with a quarterback when you have a guy that can flip his hips as fluidly as he can. I saw it on the Sunday against Green Bay. No one was covering Davante Adams. He flips his hips just as smooth as possible. Turns around, and he's right on Adams, following Adams to a T. I think Corey Littleton is another X Factor. He's an X Factor every week. He's the second best defensive player on this unit behind Aaron Donald. He's having a great season. I think it will continue in this one, and it'll lead the Rams to a victory. My last X Factor is going to be, I'm going to say it right now, John Johnson. He is playing out of his mind. Great rookie year. Follows it up this year. He's even better. He is going to be tasked. The deep balls, you're looking at a Mike Thomas. You're looking at, a Traquan Smith that can really take the top off the defense. He is going to be counted on, and I think he is going to have a game. May not, wind up in the interception part of the stat sheet. Make no mistake, he is going to be vital for this one. And my prediction in this one, I have the Rams winning 37-34. I think when you look at this game overall, you're looking at potentially the 2 best NFC teams, let alone the 2 best NFL teams in the league. I'm not talking now, I'm talking down the road. So, why did the Rams get it done on the road? Why did they improve to 9-0? I'll tell you. First off, Jared Goff, this offensive line, I expect them to be able to protect Goff enough. I do think Cam Jordan and I do think Sheldon Rankins will get through on occasion. I do think Alex Okafor is not somebody to be slept on. But at the same time, I also do think Jared really hasn't had a wow game since Minnesota week 3. Or week 4. I believe week 3 probably. I think with Cooper Kupp coming back, things are going to change for the better for Goff. He's still having a good year, but he's not quite the elite quarterback looking that we saw earlier in the year. I think that changes. This is a game the Rams need him to step it up. I think he will. I think the offensive line, again, it's hard to be perfect against a Cam Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, Alex Okafor type of offense or defensive line, but I think they'll be near it. Goff might get sacked a couple times on his own doing. He does hold the ball a little too much, but overall I expect it all to be great. I think the Rams win the battle in the trenches. Goff's able to throw 4 touchdowns in this game. Robert Woods helps out his buddy as well as Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, and we see some Josh Reynolds rewarding him for last week. We get him 15 to 20 snaps in this game. Tight ends, and this is what I keep saying, if this game is close, like I believe it will be, the tight ends will be used. Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett, I expect them to get involved in the passing game as well. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think the Rams will allow some yardage to Alvin Kamara. I do think that Mark Ingram will end up scoring a touchdown because they'll probably vulture that from Kamara. But all in all, Drew Brees, I think he'll have a Drew Brees type of game. But it's not going to be anything that really stands out. I think the Rams are just going to get the job done. Like I said, 37-34. They might barely win this one, but you go on the road and you barely beat the second best team in the league when you're the best team. I'll take it. And I'll tell you right now, guys, it may be a little unfair, but unfortunately, if the Rams lose this game and say, the Rams and Saints win out, the Saints would, after all that, the Saints would have the NFC title. The NFC would run through New Orleans. Basically, they would have the number 1 seed. They would have the tiebreaker. So as much as it stinks to have to play the Saints this point in the season, you're 8-0, and this is possibly for the NFC title. I mean, I guess, we'll see, but the Rams have played well on the road. I won't say they're a road team. I don't like that, but I think they're very resourceful with what they have around them. I think they're going to use guys like Fowler to their advantage, and they're going to sneak by with this win. And to say they're going to sneak by also isn't fair because the offense is going to score 37 points. So 37-34 is my final score prediction. And that is really going to wrap it up. The social media, the media in general have really been riding the Saints bandwagon for this week. I get it. Saints seem like a hot team. Rams seem like they just can barely win, but to me, I don't know how you can pick against this 8-0 team that just got better at the trade deadline, that is getting healthier with Cooper Kupp coming back, and maybe Okoronkwo, we'll see, but I just don't see how you could pick against that. Until they lose, it's going to be hard to give them a loss. So that's just going to about do it for Jake Ellenbogen. This has been the Downtown Rams podcast, episode 132. We talked about my LA getaway. We talked about the Rams-Packers postgame. We talked about Dante Fowler's trade at the deadline. And we covered the Rams and Saints preview. I will be back doing podcasts. It was a rough, week and a half. Very busy. I mean, it wasn't rough lifestyle-wise. It felt great. It was a great vacation. But when you're very busy like that, and, again, the asthma flare-up, if you guys missed that earlier, it's been a little hard to record. So thank you guys for hanging in there with me. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the yelling because that means you actually want to hear me talk. And that, is impressive. I wanted to make this long, but really I was able to kind of consolidate this into an hour-long podcast. I know a lot of you were expecting 2 hours. I kind of was too, but I also can barely breathe, so that's probably part of the reason why it won't be 2 hours. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. If you guys want to get part of that, you guys want to be a part of that giveaway, definitely leave some reviews on iTunes, and you'll be a part of the giveaway. So thanks again, guys, and we'll talk soon. Later.